am Amy Vetter, and welcome to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. This valuable time is for you to pause in your day and go on your own self-journey. Discover the beliefs that are holding you back from living your best life at work and at home. Learn from the guests on this show as they share their inspirational stories on how they found ways to break internal beliefs that were no longer serving them. Because if you believe you can, you will. And our podcast begins now. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs, where I interview Kacee Johnson. She is an executive in accounting technology and has forged the way for numerous cloud providers in the global market penetration. As founder of Blue Ocean Principles, a company that assists vendors in strategic market to the accounting profession, Kacee works with both enterprise and startup tech companies to help them better understand the accounting space, create strategies for growth initiatives, and foster community engagement. In 2018, Kacee joined CPA.com, an AI CPA corporation, as strategic advisor to the executive team, where she works collaboratively with the vendor and thought leader community. She has also been recognized by Accounting Today as one of the top 100 most influential people in accounting, has been awarded the CPA Practice Advisor magazine's Top 40 Under 40 award numerous years, and has been recognized as one of the top 25 thought leaders in accounting technology and listed among the most powerful women in accounting. During my interview with Kacee, we discuss how we can let go of the notion of needing to be perfect so that we can improve our performance and enjoy the journey of finding our best selves. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs. And today I'm with Kacee Johnson. Kacee, you want to go ahead and give us a little background on yourself?
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for having me. Kacee Johnson. I am strategic advisor at CPA.com, which is the business and technology arm of the AI CPA. Let's see here, for the past about dozen years, I've been in accounting technology, everything from working on the vendor side of things to being a consultant to the profession and to vendors who were looking to connect with either accounting firms or their clients. And then about 2 years ago is when I joined CPA.com to really kind of run some of the strategic initiatives that bring together the thought leader community, the ecosystem, and really kind of dive into the research and innovation pillar of helping to drive the profession forward.
That's awesome. So, I've watched your career. We've been friends for a long time. You've had a lot of pivots, and I would love to kind of talk about your beginnings as we get started today, of just really how you grew up and your role models and so forth. So when you were little, what was it that you wanted to be when you grew up? Did you ever think you'd be working with accountants and CPAs?
No, it was not on the roadmap. I wanted to be a judge, and in my undergrad, I did a double major of English literature and political science because I was on that track. And then, got accepted to law school and kind of looked at it and said, well, I want to be a judge, but I don't really want to be a lawyer. None of that is good. It's just not in my nature to argue and have conflict. So I said, well, what am I going to do now with degrees in, English lit and political science? I'm not the teaching that's not my DNA. So I went to business school, and really the marketing piece just kind of stood out to me. It made sense. It clicked. I love being able to make an impact right away and see the fruits of my labor, and the marketing and kind of sales business development piece just kind of clicked and made sense for me. So from there, I went into that, but for a technology provider.
Awesome. So what was it why did you want to become a judge in the first place? Is that when you were little that you where were you watching judges? Was someone in your family a judge or?
No, not at all. I think that I've always been interested in the political side of things. So that kind of made sense, and seeing the way that they could enact change. Again, I like to see that you're having an impact right away, whether it be on a business or on society. And I like that judges could, I don't want to say it's a power thing because I don't actually think I'm that controlling, but being able to help those that have been wronged.
Mm-hmm.
Especially anything to do, I'm very, very, you know me, I'm very, very passionate about like any kind of abuses towards those that can't protect themselves. So, child abuse, elder abuse, any kind of animal abuse, anything like that. It just, I don't want to say I was like wanting to punish those people, but I kind of did.
But maybe.
I kind of wanted to get in there because I felt like they weren't being punished hard enough and make some change.
So, and being a woman too, I mean, that's a pretty, especially as a younger woman, big goal to have. What was it with your mom? What did your mom do, and your
Yeah.
example with women as well growing up?
Yeah, well, my mom is the strongest woman I know, my goodness. And I'm the only girl. I have two brothers, and my father passed away when I was in junior high. So it was always kind of my mom doing double duty with all of us. And so I think that she got married so young, and she didn't go to college right out of high school and all of that. She took the family route and took care of us. And then after my dad died, she really had to figure out a career for herself. And now she's amazing. She works at the Department of Defense, and, she kicks butt. But it was a long, hard road for her when we were, especially me in like junior high and high school, and seeing that. And she was really hard on me because of that too, a lot harder on me than my brothers, because she was like, Kacee, you're never going to be in the position I put myself into. Like, my brothers, she was always big on education for all of us, but like I could see they got a pass on stuff.
Yeah.
And like with me, it wasn't even an option on if you're going to college. It was direct to university. You don't even have a choice. And I thank her for that now, because it is a different position that it's changed a lot since then, obviously, and progressed, but it is different for.
Yeah. I think that, definitely starts carving out your path, right? Like when you see like an example like your mom of how much she had to struggle for not doing that, and then seeing that the determination and creating success with all of that around, then it starts shifting, like, what do I do, myself.
In her 40s, having to rebuild. And I remember her being very anxious and scared to like go back to school and get, any kind of, certifications and advance her learning, but she had to, and she did it and worked full time while doing it and raising us. But she was adamant. I was not going to live that. And I can actually remember I was dating this guy one time in high school, and she said something to me like, you're going to end up just like me. I broke up with him the next day. I was like, nope, not ended up like So it made an impact.
And so how old were you when your father passed away?
I was in 7th grade, so I was at 13.
So what did he do?
He owned a couple auto body shops, did like that kind of thing. And so my mom didn't really she worked like part-time when we were young, not when we were really young, but once we were all in school, she worked part-time, but she didn't like, have a full career.
Right. So were your brothers working in the body shop with him, or was anyone working in the business with him?
No, we were all too young. And then now, one of my brothers, he is, well, right now with everything COVID going on, he's a store manager for like Sprouts, kind of like a Trader Joe's.
Okay.
If they have those where you're at. And then my other brother, he's a vice president of, do you know, like iReady and the programs that like all the kids are using now working from home. It's put out by a company called Curriculum Associates. So he's a vice president there, very, very successful. But so we all took different paths.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much, because you do a lot of work, and as you move through this marketing route, well, let me get there in a second. So after college, where did you start going with the marketing degree?
Yeah, so it's funny. I had just moved to San Diego, and I saw an ad for a marketing position at a cloud computing company. Back then, I had no idea what cloud computing was. What is that? But okay, sure. And again, it just kind of clicked for me, and I'd always been into technology, but cloud back then, it was, ASPs. Nobody really knew exactly where it was going to go. And it was a very small company. Again, I like to have impact and see, like, we're driving
Yes.
things very quickly. And it was a good run. I stayed there for about 5 years, and really, I think we grew from 89 users to over 20,000 in 5 years. So
Wow. So, and that was the question I was going to go with about your dad's business. Have you ever thought about that with some of the work? Because you do focus a lot on the small business work and helping with the marketing, of having that kind of perspective of him being a small business owner.
I never put that correlation together, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there is some kind of underlying thing there. I don't know. But, and I think, the small businesses, they're what drives America. And I've been part of really large organizations. And even right now, working with the AICPA, I mean, it's a very large organization in 23 different countries. But the entity that I get to work in, CPA.com, they're very agile, and I get to see things kind of move quickly. I think I would just get bored if I was part of a huge corporation and I was just kind of a number and I couldn't really make an impact.
Right. Yeah. So when you left college and started in these roles, what were kind of some of your belief systems of what you thought it was going to be like versus what it was?
It's a good question. I think that I had a lot of perceived notions that everybody else had it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just there as a sponge to learn from everyone. And I learned very quickly that we're all kind of lost and don't know what we're doing. We're figuring it out as we go. And I was fortunate enough to have some really good mentors that helped me through the way, especially coming into a profession that I really knew nothing about. I understood the technology and how it could help, but I really didn't know a whole lot about accounting firms.
Did you reach out for those people to be mentors, or did they reach out to you to help? And
so I kind of look back on it and say I had 3 real strong mentors, and 2 of them found me, and then 1 of them I got connected with through my former CEO, who had a
so what were some of the things that each of them taught you?
Oh, goodness. I think first, really spending time with me to help me understand the profession, the accounting profession, and that why it's a profession, not an industry. The intricacies of a firm, how they work, the unique relationship between an accountant and their clients, and how that's so different.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things, and it's invaluable. And the fact that they did it just, out of their hearts was really quite nice. And understanding the ecosystem too. I learned a lot from them on how different categories and technologies play together.
Yeah. And anything as far as like being successful as a leader, or, what did you see from them as far as that you wanted to emulate?
Well, I think more importantly, what they showed me was just because I'm not an accountant doesn't mean I can't have an impact in this profession. When I left Cloud9, 6-7 years ago, I was kind of questioning, like, oh, do I stay in the profession? I could do marketing and business development stuff anywhere. I don't necessarily need to stay here. And I loved the community though. And I kind of questioned, well, but I'm not an accountant. And so those mentors really helped me to see the unique value add that I bring that others, can't. And that, you don't need to have those certifications, just have an impact.
Right. So as you've grown into these different roles and different organizations, especially as you've gone higher up the chain, are there any kinds of habits or patterns that you've had to break in yourself in order to shift into those roles? Because it's a lot different. I think, being a small business owner, having your own consulting versus working in corporate, or being a subject matter expert in marketing versus leading initiatives. What were some big takeaways for you that you had to shift in order to create success?
Yeah, one of the biggest shifts that I had to do was moving from being, an executive at a company where you really, kind of make all the decisions, into being a consultant and advising people and having to let go of that control. That you may say, hey, this is what I think that you should do, but they're not always going to go that route. And that's okay. And so shifting and letting go and not being, having so many emotional ties to it. Because all of my clients, like I always 100% just wanted nothing but their success. And I went into them almost as if it was my company. And, you kind of treat your company as your baby, right, and you get very protective and you want nothing but the best for it. And there was a big shift in moving from that into a consultant role of having to give my advice and help them in every way I can, but not taking it personal, and not getting so emotionally invested if they go a different route.
Yeah. So, when you look at your mom's story and having had her home for part of your life and then starting to shift into work and then your career path of being a working mom, what kind of things have you taken from your mom or learned from yourself in order to still create a very successful career, but be able to, emulate something that you still wanted from when you were younger?
Yeah, that's interesting. And the balance is always changing, right? I mean, you get the mom guilt when you're on the road as much as you and I are, right, and traveling. And so you definitely, there's some issues that I'm still even trying to figure out there. I have seen that in my parenting, I still push Taylor, our daughter, to she doesn't have an option, kind of like me. You're going to college. That's not even a choice, kind of thing.
Right.
So I can see that I'm emulating my mom in that regard. I don't have any boys, so I can't say what I would do.
Yeah.
But I think that, I've seen, and she even says, she always tells my husband, oh, well, she's the CEO of our family and she's the CEO of the house. So she gets that strong leadership stuff and she sees, and I like that. I want her to be strong. And yeah, so I think that the balance, it's always going to be evolving though. It's tough, especially when you're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
I have a great partner though. He's amazing.
Yeah. So, and how does that factor into it, do you think, into your own success?
Oh my gosh. First, I struggled a lot even leaving Cloud9 and coming to that decision. And if it wasn't for his support and giving me the freedom to find my passion again, I don't know if I would have. And so without that rock, yeah, he definitely supports me in anything all the time, even if it's going to make things harder on us as a family. He's kind of that rock, and more I'm a little up here, living, in my head, and he grounds me.
Yeah. Well, and I think no matter if you're a man or a woman, it's can happen on both sides, but that communication is so important when you're trying to develop each of your careers. And I know your husband is a successful executive as well, and how you balance that with each other and communicate is really important. Else, that can be really hard if you're both trying to achieve your own career dreams at the same time as raising children.
Yeah. And we had to make an agreement, probably about 6-7 years ago. We made an agreement to limit how much we talk about work when we're at home, because we are both so success oriented and very, type A and driven people. We started to notice that so much of our conversations at home revolved around work, and you lose a little bit of that personal connection, I think, with your spouse. So we actually kind of made a, very constant decision of, okay, we're going to limit this. And so of course, he comes home, I work from home, but he drives a very long commute, 80 miles each way, comes home, and
wow,
he wants to vent, and I got to let him give that minute or two, but you can't let it go and own your entire night. You just can't. So
Yeah.
we're pretty good about that now, but it took some transition.
Yeah. And so how do you, especially, in the age we're in right now with the virus happening, but also just in everyday life, designating that time for yourself so that you can feel good and make sure that you are good for the people around you as well. So how do you both fit that in?
Yeah, well, this one I have to give a big thank you to you. So I was going 100 miles an hour and not giving myself a whole lot of self-love or taking care of myself. And you actually introduced me to Peloton. And so I've had it 1 year as of like in 2 weeks.
Yay!
I know, coming up on my anniversary, but I schedule out, literally just block out on my schedule so nobody can put meetings in there, and I have to work out. Whether it's that, it could be, I love Pilates too. I go to a studio, well, not now because it's closed, but hopefully it'll be open very soon. That or a hike, whatever it may be. And my husband knows if I've had a crazy day or I've been on the road a lot and he knows I haven't been able to exercise, he'll just grab the dog's leashes and just say, let's go for a walk. Like, he'll get me out if
Right.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Which, and your overall well-being is so important, and making sure that, you stay successful in what you do at work or at home as well. Because
Yeah.
if you don't take that time, a lot of times I think people feel guilty to do that. When we work, when you talk about the mom guilt or work as many hours, but you actually don't show up as well as you want.
Yeah. And for him, I have to do the same for him. So I'll notice when he's burning out, and his two biggest things are either going out on the boat. So I'll just go like schedule out a boat day. We're going to get the boat, we're putting it on the lake, we're getting out there. Or else I'll just book, like I'll get a tea time. And I have clubs. I am terrible at golf.
I was going to say, I didn't know you golf.
I don't. I try. It's like maybe 3 of the 9 holes, but I do it for him. It's just to get him out there. If I make a tea time, I'll go, I'll hit a few. He encourages me to do more, but it's just slows the whole thing down.
So with the things that you've learned over time from your life and through work as well, what do you try to bring to people, either coworkers or people that work for you, to help them grow in their career from your life lessons?
Well, first, I think this whole thing has kind of made me realize, I wonder sometimes if the universe is trying to make us like slow down a little bit, because I think that we're all running a million miles an hour and trying to be everything to everyone and do everything. And so with my coworkers and people that I'm working with, I'm trying to constantly reassure them that you don't have to be everything to everybody. Everybody makes a mistake. Not make a big deal about any of that. Lead with kindness. I'm very big on manners and saying, please and thank you, and letting people know how much you appreciate them, and, coach them if you do see an opportunity. But I just think that there's so much pressure from everybody everywhere that if we're not, and from my own experience, there wasn't like some roadmap that showed me exactly where to go. And again, they may be thinking that everybody has stuff figured out like I used to think. And so giving them that freedom to not have the pressure of always being perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting right now of like, when things go away, what becomes important. Have you seen anything shift of what's important that you're surprised about versus not as important anymore?
You know what I've noticed living in Southern California, we have a ton of traffic and everybody pretty much drives 90 miles an hour at all times. Nobody's really like speeding. And a lot of people, the roads obviously aren't as congested anyway, but everybody just kind of seems to be like taking their time. Nobody has anywhere to be.
Right.
So like it's all slowed down so much. Just in the general, like, how people are getting places. So I think that, again, like the universe may be trying to get us all to take a deep breath, enjoy the moment a little bit, slow down. And I personally I'm not a hoarder. I like am one of those people that does like spring cleaning 4 times a year. So for every season, but I don't understand the whole toilet paper thing. I don't get this at all. But you don't realize how, I don't know how much you cook, Amy, at home, but I cook maybe
Not
normally twice a week.
Yeah.
And so
I'm a really big door dasher.
Yeah. Okay. So to me now, not being able, like it's Friday right now, to not be able to say, hey guys, where do you want to go tonight for dinner? Is
I know.
like those little things you take for granted. And so I can't wait for the restaurants to open back.
Yeah, I know. I love that too. So, so I like to do some just rapid fire questions at the conclusion of our interview. And you just pick a category. So either family and friends, money, spiritual, or health.
Let's do health, because that's the only thing getting me through it right now. And
Okay.
we all need to be healthier right now.
Exactly. All right. So things or actions I don't have that I want.
I want to be able to do push-ups. I have very strong legs, but very weak upper body. I want to do push-ups.
There you go. All right. Things or actions that I do have that I want.
That would be anything to do with cycling and my Peloton. Absolutely. That's amazing. And I'm never giving it up.
All right. Hold you to that. Things or actions that I don't have that I don't want as far as my health.
I don't want coronavirus.
Yeah.
I'm pretty clear right now. You gotta keep all that away.
Yeah. Knock on something.
Yes.
Yeah. Things or actions that I do have that I don't want.
I think that I like to sit down and have a glass of wine at night, and it slows me down with working out. I have a inkling towards more wine than I probably should. I'd like to cut that back.
Yeah. Okay. Like to, but maybe not. Yeah.
Well, it's tough right now staying at home, but I feel like there's always an excuse. So.
Exactly. So is there anything that you want to make sure people take away from this conversation after today that you want to conclude with?
I would say my biggest kind of things that have made me who I am, not holding yourself to some strict roadmap of you've got to hit these timelines based upon your age and everything else. Like I don't know why society puts that on us, but let all that go. Number two, like if you can find some great mentors, I know at least myself, I love to mentor others. I was fortunate to have some great mentors. And once you get to a point where you can give back, do that. And again, don't hold yourself to thinking that everybody else has it figured out and that you have to be perfect, and give yourself grace and that time for self-love. Everybody deserves it, especially in times like these.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much for doing this interview with me and sharing your story. And
third time was a charm.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy.
And now it's time for our Mindful Moments section of this podcast with Kacee. And first, wanted to just delve into some of her family background. And I think with a lot of us, we don't realize how different stories in our life affect us. And I thought it was really interesting, her story about her mother when her life changed in a drastic way, becoming a widow, and how that changed her future, but also changed Kacee's as well. When you see the example of someone really struggling and having to figure out their way in the world, then you get a better understanding of what you want for your future as well. And I think there was a push-pull between her and her mom of one, her mom having to figure this out for herself, and then the pull to Kacee of making sure that she never got herself in the same position. And having that vision of knowing what you do want is really important. So a lot of times we don't actually know the job that we want or the career that we want, but we do know the outcome that we want. And that can sometimes be easier to set a goal or a focus around versus trying to get to a certain title or a certain job that we have a vision in our head of what we want to achieve. And if we actually can step back and create that vision for ourselves, it helps us with putting together goals and plans for our future rather than being too specific on the things we want versus the feeling that we want to have or the environment that we want to create around us and possibly our families as well. And like many of us, as we go through those career journeys, which Kacee talked about, that shifts over time because as we try different roles and different jobs, we notice whether that fits with our values, which is really important to understand as far as what is important to us and do we align with the work that we do? And also, is it creating that outcome that we want? And so that actually shifted her in her career. And she's had a lot of success over time going into industries or professions that she didn't have a background in. And I think that was another really important point for all of us to take in is that you might go into a new job or a new industry or a new profession that you've never been in before. And sometimes when you're around people that are the experts, you think that there's no way that you could actually be successful in that role until you step back and listen to the problems and understand that problems are universal. And there are unique attributes of every different profession that we need to learn, but the human issues and the business issues are typically very similar. I remember when I had my accounting practice, every time I'd sit down with a new small business, they would say, you know, how unique they were and so forth. But as you sat and listened to the stories, you realize it might be in a different way that they were telling the story or different circumstances, but the through line was basically the same. So realizing that you don't have to know everything in order to take on that next best role or take on some opportunity that maybe you don't think you're perfect at. What you have to be open to is learning. And that's where she really demonstrated by, you know, going to mentors and honestly saying that you're not perfect. A lot of people go into jobs and think that they have to show up perfect and they have to look perfect. But the problem is when we do that, we don't actually take in the learning that we need to do in order to be the most effective at our jobs. And the other important thing that I think Kacee had as a takeaway was making sure that you don't hold yourself to a strict roadmap. And again, this comes back to vision. What is it that you want in a bigger sense? How do you want to feel? What do you want your life to look like? And then allow the opportunities to come as they do throughout your life and be open to the learning along the way. Find great mentors as you go and also make sure that you are giving back as a mentor as well. But realize that most of us as humans don't have this figured out no matter what we're putting out into the world, that we're all learning, we're all trying to be better. And typically, we are better together than alone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. I hope you will take a moment to pause before entering back into your day to reflect on this podcast and note 1 to 2 actions you are inspired to do from today's conversation that you could incorporate into your life. To read the full blog and listen back to this episode or any other, you can find them at www.amyvetter.com/Breaking Beliefs podcast and related videos on my YouTube channel. For daily inspiration, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Amy Vetter CPA. I hope that you will choose to like this and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and more so that you can join us for more inspiration on our next episode.